Is
we
he
do
fit
not
or
want
isn't
to
he?
do someone
You're talking
that's
about him
almost
being
80.
80 years old.
It doesn't mean
Ron,
that somebody
is he
couldn't
fit?
get elected. That's
Ron,
up to the people to
Governor
decide.
DeSantis,
But I
is
think we have
he
an
fit
opportunity
or
to
isn't
do
he?
somebody who's
Governor
in.
DeSantis, let him finish.
Ron,
Okay.
is
I
he
think we have
fit?
an opportunity
Guys,
to do
guys,
somebody
guys,
who
no
is in the
talking
prime
over
of
each
their
other.
life.
Yes.
We don't have to
No
worry
talking over
about all this stuff with
Ron,
confidence.
DeSantis,
We can get it done,
Stop.
and we'll do it.
I'm going to come to you.
Okay, one of the more contentious moments there from this week's GOP debate. Let's talk about it right now with our panel. Here with us in studio today, we have former state party chair for the Indiana Democrats, Robin Winston, 2016 vice chair for the Indiana Trump campaign, Tony Samuel, Purdue political science professor, Dr. Martin Sweet, and UIndy political science professor, Dr. Laura Wilson. So Laura, I'll start with you here. We saw the candidates for president on the Republican side really go after each other there when discussing former President Trump, who continues to hold a big lead, while the others in this race continue to attack each other. With just over a month now until the Iowa caucus, they're running out of time.
Oh, they are. And I do think this was the most educational debate we had. When you only have 4 candidates on stage, you get a better sense of who they are. But the big elephant in the room was the Republican who wasn't on stage and still leading in the polls in terms of Donald Trump. So you saw Haley getting a lot of attacks. Obviously, Chris Christie very upset, didn't get to speak until 18 minutes in. I think this was helpful for voters, but we're talking about less than 40 days until Iowa. And Trump is consistently in the lead. Haley's been catching up, DeSantis has fallen down. But the one thing that's been consistent in the several months since this race began is Donald Trump leading. And for the Republican primary voters, that's still the case.
Martin, what stood out to you the most in this debate? Who do you think had the best night of the 4 of them?
Right. Well, nobody hunts small deer, right? They all went after Nikki Haley on this thing. And so they think she's certainly doing the best. I actually thought it probably was her worst debate among her 4, although she's been so good in the others that probably isn't much. The real challenge, though, is that no one can deliver a knockout punch to each other. And so if there's 4 of them dividing this stuff against Trump, it's a lost cause.
Tony, Chris Christie went after Donald Trump pretty hard there, said he was unfit for the job, reacting to Trump's comments about only wanting to be a dictator on his first day back in office. He was critical of the others in the race for not standing up to Trump more vocally. Will Governor Christie's remarks have any impact in this race?
No, he's still at 3% or less, probably closer to 1%, and then that's been going on, and it's not going to change now. I think Donald Trump did the right thing strategy-wise to avoid these debates. He didn't give them the opportunity just to take shots at him, you know, for an hour and a half, 2-hour-long debate. Now the debates are over, so he's weathered that. He's been in the lead. He's staying in the lead. He's going to, you know, roll into Iowa and New Hampshire with big leads and win those, and then you just start rolling along and getting the wins in the primaries, and before you know it, he's got the nomination. That comment about dictator for a day, the media had already started playing that dictator word up, and so when he talked to Sean Hannity, I watched it. It was clearly a joke. He talked about on day 1 he would start building the wall again and cut regulations, which he's already done and proven to do that, and those are the kinds of things that why voters are, you know, putting him so high in the polls.
So Robin, how do you see all that from across the aisle, and what did you make of former President Trump's comments there about being a dictator just on day 1?
So I'm going to agree with Tony on one thing. Donald Trump will be their nominee. I'm going to vehemently disagree with him on another. Being dictator for a day is no laughing matter. They're talking about getting Federalist Society to vet all their judges. They're talking about really going after Bannon, going after the media of all people. I mean, you know, Maya Angelou once said, if somebody shows you who they are, believe it. He's shown the American people who he is. People ought to believe it.
Laura, this is an election year where the race itself could be completely overshadowed by former President Trump's trials in court, perhaps also by impeachment proceedings against President Biden in the House. House Republicans still looking for more evidence, but taking steps forward again this past week as Hunter Biden's indicted again. This could be quite a year with all of these other news stories impacting the election itself.
Absolutely, and you're just talking about the presidential election. If you think, you know, further down the ballot in terms of the Senate, the gubernatorial, Indiana voters have a lot of candidates to choose from in really important races. I think there's no lack of noise in politics, and it's going to be really hard for voters to cut through all of that, to understand who the candidates are, what the issues are, and then make their best decision.
We heard a little bit of that noise in that clip at the beginning of this segment, right, with the candidates sparring on the debate stage. Martin, what are you expecting in the midst of all of this here in the year ahead?
Well, as I'm watching this, I just kept thinking, you know, we're certainly going to have, if it's Trump and Biden again, we're going to have our oldest president of all time, right? And you've had both sides are sort of going after each other for that. I think both political parties have been exposed for some some weaknesses on both sides, right? And weakness is the wrong word, but some ugliness on both sides. It's not very optimistic. I don't know often what to tell my students. I don't think this is getting better. It seems to be getting worse for all of us.
And certainly a lot of concerns about what the year ahead may bring. Let's talk about Indiana, though, and the race for governor. All of the candidates speaking this past week in Columbus. You saw our interview there this week with Curtis Hill. Tony, is he a legitimate candidate in this race, or is he still facing an uphill climb?
No, he's a legitimate candidate. Where he's hurting is competing with the others with the money, you know,
they have a
as
lot
far
of
as
resources,
fundraising.
the other candidates in the race.
And but that's expected. You know, Braun's a sitting senator, and he's a wealthy businessman. He outspent, you know, in the 2018 Senate primary, $7.5 million is what he spent to the, you know, beating the two congressmen. Doden and Brad Chambers, both wealthy millionaires, multi-millionaires, can self-fund. And Suzanne Crouch is a great fundraiser. She will have enough to compete in that $9-10 million for the primary. So that's where Curtis is hurting. Where Curtis benefits is he is a true conservative, and there are that faction of the Republican Party that's, you know, they want a true conservative. So when you split it 5 ways, and if he can get in the 20s and catch on, he's got a shot.
But
he's got a
also,
legitimate
as
shot.
I asked him earlier, throwing punches at a lot of other people in the Republican establishment, which might appeal to the grassroots, but can it really get you across the finish line?
I don't know
in the
if there's
primary?
enough of that conservative bloc, but his chances are definitely helped by there being so many candidates in the race.
Robin, what are your thoughts on 2024, not just on Curtis Hill and this race for governor, but also the Senate race? This past week, GOP candidate John Rust getting a court ruling in his favor that could allow him to be on the primary ballot.
Well, first off, I think our nominee is going to be Jennifer McCormick. She's
the only one in the race now.
Only one in the race, and
For the
about
Democrats,
8,000 signatures. You're only required to have 4,500, so she's running ahead of the pace. The only candidate on their side with signatures is Doden. As far as the Senate race, you know, I believe that the party ought to let people run. I mean, the same guys that howl about free market, open trade, want a monopoly on politics. That shouldn't be the case. Let the voters in the Republican Party vote on it. I do believe that this is going to set a precedent, Dan, for the future, and people are going to be like, okay, I don't really need to check off with anybody to run. Let's just run.
Laura, will this have wide-ranging implications in the future if this ruling stands, kind of changing the primary process in general in the state of Indiana?
Absolutely. I agree with Robin. I think this is sweeping. This is a major decision, and especially when we talk about ballot access and who gets to decide who you're going to be a candidate. Right now, the party had served a large role as gatekeeper in making that decision, and with this court ruling, I think it gives a lot of prospective candidates confidence in the ability to make that decision themselves.
The Indiana GOP has officially endorsed Jim Banks in this race. He's likely to get the nomination. Potentially the downside for him here with Rust actually running is he'd have to spend some of his resources in the primary. He wouldn't have to otherwise. Is that how you see this, Martin?
Right. He might have to spend additional money in the primary. And Rust, from all indications, right, is sort of a lifelong Democrat, but has a lot of money. You know, we'll see how it shakes out. I don't see it as a real serious challenge to Banks. And well, I don't know. In the general, I don't know this can be very serious either, right? I think this looks like Banks' race.
Tony, what do you see of the impact of this ruling, if any, in this race?
Yeah, I agree with both Robin and Laura on the impact down the road,
Long
but
range.
I don't think it hurts Banks. He'll have to spend some money just to be safe because Rust will be spending, and again, another wealthy guy running for Senate. We've seen it across the country.
All right, the panel will be back in a few minutes. Straight ahead, we're going to take a closer look at another issue that's come up on the campaign trail, the plan to pipe water from Lafayette to Lebanon, and what elected officials in both of those communities are telling us about the situation. Next.